What's up, everyone? How's it going? This is the Go Along Podcast. I'm Tyler Dunn here with my co-host and longtime NFL exec, current XFL director of personnel, Jim Monis. I never adequately, introduced you, Jim. I just assume that everybody knows the greatness that is Jim Monis. I shouldn't I
That's
shouldn't assume.
well, you shouldn't assume that people think I'm great. That's very nice of you to say. I wouldn't get that introduction everywhere, but thank you.
Well, if they listen to you on this podcast, then they know. A podcast
Hey,
is fueled by Fatty Beer Company, we may add, our friends Nick
wait,
Fatty, Chris DeCesare. Thank you so much for
man,
providing us ample and copious amounts of beer for the
and
show.
plenty of fuel and knowledge from Friday when we were there because
Yes.
there was some good. I like that mid season, and we talked about what teams are going to sneak around, and we talked about the Jets. We'll get into that. We talked about Miami, but the Bills division is real,
Yeah.
and I think it's time that we see which quarterbacks are going to challenge Josh Allen.
I think that's got to be the theme for the show. I mean, we want to jump around to all these different games because it was another just highly
it's
entertaining, unpredictable,
it's every week.
wacky week in the NFL, which is becoming commonplace. But I mean, the AFC East, all of a sudden you look up and all four of these teams are just jammed together. I think we've all kind of been anointing the Buffalo Bills as the greatest team in football. It's like, well, they better get out of their division first because the Bills are 6-2,
It's
Miami 6-3. The Jets are 6-3, and the Patriots
mm,
just got Frank Reich fired. They're 5-4. So
saw that.
it's it's a highly competitive division. I we right, speaking of assumptions, nobody should assume that the Bills are just going to steamroll to a division title. You can't. They're 0-2 in the division.
It's just we talk about it every week. Not that easy. It's too hard to win. And now you're getting these teams that Miami and the Jets are proving that they have some talent. Which quarterback is going to rise up? Now Tua has played well. You know, he's played well. He also has made some that team, when I watch that team, they have no defense. Miami. The running game is you can't count on the running game yet. Probably because up front they're not dominant up front. And Tua still needs consistency because I still see some of the poor throws. But here's the good with Miami. The scheme has worked for this team. The skill set is matching the coach. He knew what he wanted to do with his offense, and he's doing it. They're unguardable right now. Like they are. We talked about it. That NBA team that you just if they're on fire, it's going to be tough to stop. The problem is they don't stop anybody. So that's where Miami's going to have to figure out if they're going to beat Buffalo, they're going to have to somehow play defense. The Jets are kind of opposite, where they are playing legit defense. We talked about it on Friday that the Bills are going to have to show up. This is going to be this defense is real. I just didn't know if Zach Wilson is good enough or consistent enough to make plays to outscore Buffalo. But if Josh Allen plays a game like that, it's like the perfect storm for Buffalo. He doesn't play a great game. Jets don't turn the ball over a lot. That's a win for the Jets. That's how they get that. But I want to hear your reaction after this game. I'm not going to talk about the Patriots
Yeah.
because they're the same team every year. Well coached, good team, quarterback's average. See what happens. Um, but yeah, I want to hear your take on this for Buffalo.
Yeah. You know what? A few things jump. The last throw, right? It hits Gabe Davis on the chest. As bad as Josh Allen played, I mean, we would be talking about one of the greatest throws in franchise history if Gabe Davis catches the ball. Fourth and forever, rolls left, chucks it. But yeah, Allen was terrible. I mean, he had a 46 rating.
Yep.
He had, I want to say, as many incompletions as completions, which is always bad in today's NFL when a passing game is basically a running game. Two just boneheaded picks, was sacked 5 times.
They well said by you. They were strange interceptions.
Yeah, it was, people were saying that it was like rookie Josh Allen reappearing. That's
Yeah,
putting it kindly. That was like the
those were
mistakes we'd
strange.
make back in youth football.
Those,
Bizarre.
those were yeah. Whenever you see plays like that make no sense, I don't. I've always said that's when you just got to put your hands up. Just hold on, that made no sense. There was no, that didn't, we didn't see that coming from Josh Allen. We thought those days were over. I thought he would always try to make the special play, and maybe that's how he makes a pick. But those were poor decisions and poor throw. Like there was nothing that made sense about those throws.
Yeah, and toggling back and forth between the Buffalo game and Green Bay game was kind of similar. I mean, I know they're good friends, Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen. Some of those throws they just didn't make any sense.
It doesn't look like
Directly to the opposition.
no.
I think I tweeted it was like his body was overtaken by a monster in Space Jam. It's like who is this quarterback? It makes no sense for him to play the way he was playing. At least Aaron Rodgers' excuses, he's been pretty terrible all year. Josh Allen was an MVP frontrunner. I don't get it. And but you have to give the Jets some credit where Robert Saleh has done this against
and Joe Douglas and Joe Douglas. They've drafted very well on defense, and they've tried hard to build that offensive line up, but they've had a lot of injuries up front, so they're still mixing and matching up front. They're still in that whole building, they're holding their breath every week with that quarterback. But they've done some.
They're not frauds like I declared them last week. I mean, I was dead wrong. This is a good team.
They're a good team with a young quarterback. Where's he going to go? That's, where's he going to go is how far this team is going to go, which sounds simple, but it's true.
They are kind of, we've touched on this, but they are kind of built to win in 2022 where big plays are down. I mean, after Stephon Diggs starts the game with that 42-yarder beating Sauce Gardner, the Bills, I mean, and then Josh Allen had the 36-yard touchdown. Outside of those two plays, there was nothing. No big plays whatsoever from the Bills, and it's kind of par for the course for a lot of explosive offenses
in the league. You're right.
The way defenses are sitting back and begging you to string long drives together. That's what the Jets want to do. They want to shorten the game and limit possessions and win with their defense. It makes me think that, they can get to I don't know if they're going to win a Super Bowl that way, but they'll get to the playoffs that way.
You can get to the playoffs that way. To win the Super Bowl is your quarterback. So he'll have to take that step. But you can see where the plan was in place from Joe Douglas, Saleh, the coach. They were on the same page trying to build this thing. They went all in on the quarterback, and now they built around him. And it takes time. I mean, I'm not writing him off because we talked about it. You see the talent. You see some of those throws that he does that are on the rare side of ability. It's just, can he be consistent enough to beat the big time quarterbacks and the big time defenses, which he played one yesterday, and he didn't play. He wasn't a disaster against a really good defense. And I want to talk about their Bills defense in a second, because they're going to need, we've masked it. We've kind of, Josh is getting them by, they're scoring. Yeah. That's serious leadership they're missing in that secondary. I'm not even talking about the talent. I'm talking about the leadership of that team. Leslie Frazier and McDermott, they know how important Hyde is, Poyer, and Tre'Davious White. All three of those guys are extensions of the coaches. And that's a major thing. Milano wasn't playing. I mean, there's guys out there that they're going to need those guys to be, once we get to play. And that's what we talk about. How do you stay healthy for the playoffs?
Yeah. And
that's not the reason they lost yesterday. I'm not talking about yesterday.
I'm saying that this game strikes me as just a haymaker punch to the team's ego, right? And ego is a powerful thing. It's a good thing. I don't mean that in a negative way. The Bills are at their best when they're front running and they're getting big leads and they're dancing and they're loving life and they're rubbing it in your face. And the team's social media team is going after Nick Wright. I mean, it's above and beyond. Like, we're the best. We know we're the best. We've got Josh Allen. You don't have Josh Allen. It's just overall aura that emanates through a locker room, through just the overall emotion of a team. And it's a powerful thing. I mean, you watch some of these Bills games when they're really rolling and you can just feel it like, wow, this offense is not going to be stopped. Like they've got their foot on your throat and they're going to win by 3, 4, 5 touchdowns. But similar to the Jacksonville game last year, and obviously the Colts game, but they had those moments where they get they get haymaker. They get absolutely sucker punched, and it's a
Mm.
blow to that front running attitude. And at the time, we talked about it. I think I wrote, this is a soft football team, right? Like they just looked like a soft team at one point last year. And to the Bills' credit, to their credit, they proved they're tough. I mean, they came
Mm.
back at the end of that
Yeah.
season, and they were peaking at the perfect time where this looked like the best team in the NFL at Arrowhead. It really did. And then obviously the coaching let them down in epic fashion. So that's what I'm saying is it's a bad loss. It was ugly. It was hard to watch. I mean, even you mentioned the defense. My God, that 13 play, 86-yard field goal drive the Colts had where they did. So it's 13 play. This when it was 17-17, obviously that's
Yep.
the field goal to take the lead and win the game. Watch Tremaine Edmonds on that drive. I mean, he is just on roller skates. And they faced up until the last third down where Damar Hamlin had the sack and they settled for the field goal. The Jets only faced one third down the whole drive. I mean, they just stayed ahead of the sticks with James Robinson. I mean, a guy that they just picked up. I mean, he's the bell cow that drive. Yeah, it was kind of it had the stench of that Colts game to it, that Jaguars game to it, where they're getting pushed around. I this game doesn't really change my opinion, big picture of the Bills because we saw it last year, right? I'd be worried if they didn't get out of that place last year because I wasn't so sure that they would just rally like they. You were still confident in the Bills when they're losing to Mac Jones throwing the ball 3 times in Jacksonville and Jonathan Taylor but they got out of that place. I think that they can get out of this. There's plenty of season left.
Yeah.
But it's going to get, and we'll get into the future games, but you got Minnesota coming to town and they've got tons of confidence right now. It's not going to be easy. They got to get healthier, right? They have to get healthier.
That's what we talked about all year. Got to be healthy for the playoffs somehow, some way. This is the tough part of the year for every team. Look at the Chiefs last night at home on the big stage. A rookie quarterback who can't complete a pass right now should have beat Mahomes. Now explain that. Like they could, right? That's what I'm trying to say.
That game was just batshit crazy. It was just so bizarre watching that
That's what
game
I'm
last
saying.
night.
So don't like it.
Yeah.
Look, the Chiefs got their win, but you wouldn't pan like Tennessee. And we've talked about them. I feel like every year they're the same team every year. Well coached, tough as hell, run the ball, no quarterback, won't ever beat the good teams. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's a tough time of year. Get your win if you can and get out and move on. If you lose a game like that, if you're the Bills, it's okay. Let's regroup. What are the big issues right now? How can we get right? Let's just try to beat Minnesota right now. You're going to have a quarterback who's going to be, I mean, he was embarrassed. That's the first time I felt like I've seen him after the game kind of say, I played like shit, blah, blah, blah. He always will take blame, but he knows that was on him a little bit. They only gave up, I mean, until that last field goal. I mean, 17 points.
Yeah.
Like we're sitting there talking about they need to get their secondary right. Josh Allen stinks, played terrible, blah, blah, blah. Right in the game you're right there. So bad, tough loss, keep it moving. Don't let it ruin you. But I think what we now know, and we talked, the division is real. You have to show up. You have to show up for all those games now. All of them. Patriots too.
I liked how you started this conversation too, where like Miami's defense. I mean that's why they went after Bradley Chubb aggressively. They need something.
They need help
because Justin Fields was looking like the greatest quarterback in Chicago Bears history, and we're gonna get to him.
They're using him like you got to use him. Just let him try it. Yep. You're seeing his physical skill set though. That's physical skill set is. Did it not remind you of Cam Newton a little bit? Like just that big, powerful, faster than you, even though I'm 250.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He looked great.
I mean, as far as he has that ability in him, but you have to cater to his skill set. Anyway, I know, but Miami, back to your point, their defense got to come on. They got to get better.
They do. I think that would worry me, but I think of so I guess out of the 3 teams, the Jets, the Patriots, and the Dolphins, I think the Patriots are going to play Buffalo a lot a lot better than they did the
100%,
last two showings. I think that
100%
that
agree with
defense
you.
is going to have a lot of pride.
Agree.
And Matthew
Judon's
Judon, I mean,
real.
he's got to be the
Real.
most underrated player in the game.
I
He just
like
takes
that.
over games. He's unbelievable, Matthew Judon. And that's
Can
definitely
you
a
be
player I want to get to
underrated?
know here at Go Along soon because I feel like he's just a legit star that doesn't get his due. Nobody knows much about. And watching that Colts game, I mean, it wasn't much of a game, but 9 sacks. He just collapsed that line all game. But I don't think Buffalo is going to be too worried about New England. I think that the confidence they got in those games in the past, same with the Jets. I feel like if push comes to shove in a playoff game, they would beat the Jets. Miami, of those three teams, I think would still scare me the most if I was the Bills because they can score and they can get hot. And
You're
as
nothing you
much
can
as
do
I
with
love
those two.
defense and those type of games, you get into January and you still need the quarterback and the passing game to beat Josh Allen.
I mean, Tua made some terrible throws yesterday. I mean, he made some bad throws.
I mean, that
Like,
fourth down that he skipped, right? That would have ended the game right there.
and there was some earlier. I mean, he has those moments, but when it's right, it's just those two guys are just anytime they touch the ball, they can score, and that's just it's hard to find.
We've talked. He gets into that space, like he just knows where the
Yeah,
vacancy is going to be in a defense, and boom, the ball's there. Hill and Waddle adjust to it. Um, it's
but yeah,
kind of
those
crazy. I mean, it's Hill and Waddle. Like I'm sure they'd love to get Trent Sherfield going, or but God, they paid up for like a Cedric Wilson, I think, and
yeah,
Gasecki's in the red zone. But it is Hill,
just
it is Waddle, and they just stress you with both of those guys.
that's it. That's all they do. And you're probably your defense is you have to commit a certain amount of players. You can't one guy can't guard them. So you're bracketing, you're zoning, you're doing your best to give help. So for two
Yeah,
guys, you may be using 3 or 4 guys to
yeah.
just to try to. I mean, it's for those two. So that's why I'm waiting to see is the running game ever going to come on for Miami?
I mean, but let's not forget too, in games that Tua has started and finished, they're undefeated.
Don't get me started. I told he's playing very good.
Uh,
He it's
I mean, they're only. I mean, they're 6-3, but that Cincy game might have been a game. I mean, the Jets blew them out.
always there's always a game that you just throw away. I always say in the NFL it's what 17 games. Take
Yeah.
your 2 or 3 stinkers, throw them out. Take your 2 or 3 where you blew somebody out. Study those other games. Probably who you are.
If we have any listeners out there that are from South Florida, I'll be down there this week. So Go Long is hitting the road to beautiful Fort Lauderdale. Let's hang out.
Tyler, you need to start giving me advance notice on these trips. I think you need as your editor. I'm not your number one editor. I'm your parents are your best editors. But I'd like to think maybe you could get me on one of these trips. I could do something for you, whether it's some type of catering for you and your guest.
Yeah.
I just need. I hear Florida. The weather's not bad up here. Now I know we don't want to talk about weather, but every time I hear Florida and I look outside, I just want to make sure it's not snowing here. You got to save
Hey,
those
you're more
Florida
than welcome to
trips.
come. I mean, I'm not going to comp your trip. I mean, if you just
No,
want to
no,
pay out
no,
of pocket, come
no.
on down.
I was actually thinking about paying for your trip too, just so I could go.
Hey, all right. Yeah, if anybody out there has a bunch of Marriott points that they just want to, give to Go Long out
Go
of
long.
as a token of your gratitude, I've burnt through all of my old Bleacher Report miles and points, so that'd be a perfect time.
The Go
I'm only
Long
half
Marriott.
joking.
The Go
Um,
Long Marriott account. Go fund it. Go fund us Marriott points.
hey, we have a ton of support from readers, and that's why this
No,
thing
things are
is still
good.
going strong. So
Yeah,
I won't beg and plead quite yet. Quite
not
yet.
yet.
But Thursday, 6 p.m., Hijinks Sports Bar in Boca Raton. Come on down. So if you're listening, I'll be posted up with boxes of this book that you see right here, The Blood and Guts: How Tight Ends Save Football, to sell and sign. Let's hang out. I'll share some Jeremy Shockey stories that maybe didn't make the book. There might be a few out there too, even though he was pretty wild for the book. But yes, Hijinks, 6 p.m. Thursday. Hopefully see you there. And hey, even if you're not from South Florida, maybe you just want to be like our buddy Colin in New Jersey and just drive out to hang out with Go
Come
Long.
hang out,
Just come on out.
drop knowledge, drop
Yeah.
knowledge, come and drop knowledge.
All right. So that's the AFC East. Anything else there? You said you didn't want to talk about the Patriots because the Patriots are the
No, I mean
Patriots.
they're real. I mean you have to show up to beat them, but they're not threatening anybody. I don't think. I just don't see that. I just don't see it on offense. I don't see the playmakers. I just don't see the playmakers. I like that Stevenson though. I like that running back.
He's tough. Yeah, he's
I
tough.
like him.
Yeah,
But
Mac
no, I think
Jones has not really improved. I mean, it might not even really be his fault. They don't have a quarterback
he
coach,
looks.
right? They just kind of have this weird
Yeah,
mishmash.
it's tough. I felt like we gave him credit last year for being in the right place for a young quarterback. Like last year, it was look at Mac Jones. You know, he's not that talented, but he's in the right place that can groom a rookie, and that lasted till about halfway through
Right.
the season, and
Well, that's
then
the greatness that is Josh McDaniels left, right? And he's proven that he's a great offensive mind with oh, never mind. They just lost to the Jaguars. God. I mean, that's something I didn't see coming either. I thought that they would be
what
hovering around 500 at least.
that the Raiders are calling Gruden, trying to get Gruden back.
You know, the Frank Reich move today, it definitely gets the ball rolling, I think, on just that, as we've talked about, the panicked search for the life rafts on the sinking ships. Like the ships are starting to sink in different markets, and people are going to start losing their
Carolina.
jobs. People are going to start scapegoating left and right, and you just wonder, like who, like with Vegas, like where is it Carr? Does he say I have to get my own
Well,
quarterback?
it's that's what's going to happen. I think there. I think you'll see that.
Yeah,
I think that breakup's coming.
don't you just want to love Derek Carr? I mean, you really
I feel like I've
want
watched
to
him for
believe
so
in Saint
long.
Carr.
He is he's maxed out. He's a good quarterback.
Yeah,
You know, I think he's proven that. I don't think he's quite talented enough to get to that, that championship game Super Bowl level without, everything else being in place. He teases you, really, what he does. Because you see kind of what we talked, you see the ability, you see it last year too. I thought he got hot last year. I thought he kind of put that team going through all that chaos they did with the head
right.
coach. They kept that thing together, which is why I thought they should have kept that head coach. Um, and let him try to let him, and he had something special. That team bought into him.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying they're not buying into McDaniels, but at the end of the day, it's probably they're going to have to decide: is this head coach quarterback combo the one
right.
we need? I know where it's headed. I know McDaniel's not getting fired after 1 year. That quarterback, he has enough years. They'll be able to they'll try to move on from him.
You don't think Mark Davis just wants to keep paying coaches to not
Probably.
coach his team?
I'm not
He's
sure
on the
they
hook for
care.
Gruden for quite a
I
while.
know. I don't know if they care. I'm to the point. I don't know if any colleges don't care, owners don't care. They pay these guys.
Yeah,
Don't go into scouting. Go into coaching. Scouting contracts aren't guaranteed. Coaches guaranteed.
good point. Here's Carr yesterday. So obviously they started hot. He's getting the ball to Devontae Adams,
Ah,
17 targets,
yes,
146, 2 touchdowns. But then
yes,
the offense just completely
yes. It
bottomed
did.
out, completely. And you lose to Jacksonville. You're 2-6. You haven't won on the road. 0-5 on the road. They're done. I mean, I think we can start writing some teams off, right? So let's start there. We can probably write the Raiders off, especially in
Yeah,
the
the
AFC at two
AFC
and
for
six.
sure.
They're done,
AFC for sure.
cooked.
And yeah,
Okay, then let's
AFC.
get to this. Well, and then what about Jacksonville? While we're on that
I
game, they're
mean,
3-6.
they're not contending this year, but
Right, you're just
small steps. Small steps.
Kansas City and Baltimore around the bend there for Jacksonville too. All right, let's get to this team, and you tell me if they're dead or if they still have a pulse, if they're still breathing. They're kind of like the fish out of water. You go fishing and you just kind of throw that fish ashore,
Yeah.
and it's huffing and puffing, and eventually it just it's time. The Green Bay Packers lose at Ford Field to the Detroit Lions, 15-9. The chorus will be loud today, Jim. There'll be a lot of loud pundits out there blasting away at Green Bay's supporting cast when to actually watch this game. Woof. I mean,
How?
yeah, I know I'm a hater, but are you
You're not
I
a
mean
hater. You're a
serious?
realist. You're a realist. You've been a
Yeah.
realist about it. You
It
can't
was difficult to watch. I mean, the
can't
all
defend it.
three of his interceptions were just so uncharacteristic of Aaron Rodgers, but it wasn't only that, like he
It's
had open receivers. I mean, you could see it.
yes,
I
yes.
mean, a
It's
lot
a
of the clips are
mix.
kind of making the rounds now where there's a tight end wide open on a post across the middle, and he's looking at DeGuara. He's looking at him, and then he just throws in complete far left. Or he's got AJ Dillon on a check down wide open, and he pats and he pats and he pats and he throws incomplete. It's exactly what we saw in 2018 when everything fell apart with Mike McCarthy and they bring in Matt LaFleur. He looks like somebody that isn't buying into the offense, right? And let me just pull this up. I mean, and you share your thoughts as I find it, but our good friend Tom Silverstein wrote an excellent column at PackersNews.com where it just sums up where LaFleur and Rodgers are right now. Um, let's see here.
You, I'm
Yeah, here it
surprised.
is.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is Tom. He wrote, LaFleur wants more motion, Rodgers wants less. LaFleur likes to quarterback under center, Rodgers likes shotgun. LaFleur needs Rodgers to be patient and supportive of the young receivers, and Rodgers suggested after the game that they need more hurry up, and he believes in tough love. Does anyone really think LaFleur came up with the tackle-eligible play that called for Rodgers to throw the ball to David Bakhtiari, a guy who can barely practice during the week because of the 4 surgeries he's had on his left knee? Rodgers and Bakhtiari are best friends, and yeah, it would have fired up everyone if Bakhtiari were to score. But this is a must-win game, and on 4th and goal at the 1, maybe a throw to Lazard or Tunyon would have made more sense. Quote, yeah, I would, Lazard said of winding the ball in that situation. But that's regardless if it's first, second, third, or 4th and goal. It doesn't matter. I think that's just my competitive nature. I always want to help the team. Boom. I mean, that's exactly it. That's just they want completely different things. And I thought it was also telling. Aaron Andrews, I believe it was a podcast. Maybe Aaron Rodgers told her how he wants to go down swinging, like he wants to go down throwing, swinging, doing his thing. And this is after you actually ran the ball so well against Buffalo, and after it was so clear that if you had that game plan the 3 prior games, you
And
probably win
Detroit.
those 3 games.
And Detroit. They can't stop anybody.
Right? They couldn't. They couldn't. It was but that just
That's
that
what
it reeks of insubordination, and I get it. Everybody will
it
say
does.
the right thing publicly, right? Matt LaFleur is again going out of his way to not criticize the quarterback. I mean, he'll never hold him accountable like he holds other players
That's
accountable, which you wonder
yeah.
what players are thinking in that locker room. But where does it go? Where does it go? I mean, I think it is reaching that breaking point. I think their relationship is getting to that point where it's going to be over. I mean, they're going to be eliminated from playoff contention at some point. It's only going to get worse. I mean, now Dobbs has a high ankle sprain, so he's out 4 to 6 weeks. Um, yeah, I mean, Christian Watson, who you drafted in the second round, had injury problems. Your quarterback just clearly isn't into the offense that the head coach wants to run, and the head coach isn't going to say a word, nor can he, because he begged and pleaded for Rodgers to come back. So they're going to go down with Rodgers, I guess,
Yeah.
unless you
Yeah.
slip him on IR with something, or
This is where it's confusing. It goes back to your whole point.
they're not going to
This
bench
is
him. I mean, they should. You should get a look at Jordan Love, right? It behooves you as a franchise to see what you have. They're
it's
not going to
either
do it.
no, because it's either move on. I still don't understand. Once he committed to coming back this year, I thought that meant basically what he told Aaron Andrews, like what you said, like he's all in, he's ready. I want to boom, boom, boom.
All in on his terms, though. That's what I mean. Like,
That's what
he
you're saying.
wants to win, but he wants to win his way.
And that's what I wouldn't have known. He and LaFleur, I thought they had a great relationship from the outside. I would have never known. They were every year on offense, they were rolling. But I guess we're seeing that there was more to it than those two.
Yeah, I don't think it. What I was told, it's not toxic. It's not like Rodgers completely,
Well,
disrespects his football intellect like he did Mike McCarthy from day one. Because I mean he
Right,
never
right.
forgot that McCarthy chose Alex Smith over him, and he would mock Alex Smith in front of the whole team on film whenever they
Like couldn't
played.
get over it. Yeah.
So there isn't. It's not to that degree, but I had a player tell me that he more so tolerates Matt LaFleur, right? He doesn't dislike him, but it's just he kind of tolerates him, kind of would go,
Yeah.
and he loved Hackett. He loved Hackett. I mean, they were tight. So he's gone, which probably doesn't help. And
No, it doesn't.
you're right. I just think that even if they like each other as people, like anybody in any profession, you can like somebody as a person, but when it comes to business, you don't get along and things need to end. I think that's where it's going.
Well, the crazy thing is, it's not their season isn't over in the NFC. It's really not. But it is if this is what we're talking about. If we're talking about that the head coach and quarterback aren't buying into each other right now, yeah, it's over. I mean, you can't have that distraction if you're trying to if you're what are they 3-6? So you have to make a run. I mean, you have to get to, 9-8
Yeah.
to get to probably in 9-8 might get you in the NFC.
I'm just looking at their schedule though,
I don't
and
know
I
if they
don't
can get to
see many
9-8.
wins.
I'm not saying
I
they
mean,
can.
you just lost to possibly the worst team in football, absolutely the worst defense in
No
football,
question. Defensively, yeah.
and now you're banged up, and yeah, it's just hard to.
Hard to
It
think.
just seems
Hard
like
to think they could
there's
do it.
more infighting going on than what's
Right.
publicly said at press conferences. Which shocker, right? Maybe what we're told in public settings isn't always 100% the case. That there's more layers, more gray area. You lived it. I mean, you saw it on all your teams.
I would say that there's always more behind the scenes than what we know in the public, just from being
You're telling me everything that Rex told us in 2015 and 2016 verbatim wasn't the case internally, huh? I
everybody
will say,
tries
and
their
Rex
best.
probably wore his emotions on his sleeve as much as anybody too.
Rex wasn't going to hide anything. He wasn't going
Yeah,
to try.
yeah, yeah. That's
But
probably a
yeah,
bad
there's more to
example.
it. There's more to it.
All right. So dead or alive, the Packers on the dead scale. Where were you?
I mean, you have to go dead.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to say it because the NFC is, I don't want to say anybody's dead in the NFC, but to think they have to get to 9-8, they're 3-6, they got to go on a hell of a run.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right, and I think now it's about okay, what's next for this franchise, right? What obviously they should have moved on the last two off seasons,
There, yeah.
taking their bounty and
Last
picks
this
and
year for
players. They
sure.
did not. Now
Last year, you're the number one seed. Last year, you did the right thing. Last year, you were the number one seed.
eh,
Best record, I don't know. I have a tough time with that, but I don't know how they couldn't
who
have.
takes on his contract though? Like,
Well, I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
is
At
there a
this
team
point,
out there that is going to convince
yeah,
themselves that you think
possibly.
so? As bad as he's playing,
Denver will bench Russell. No. Um, I do think somebody would at least could look into it to see. You're saying as bad as he's playing, it's a mix. His physical skill set is there. It's a really strange thing going on with him
it is.
mentally
You're right.
right
He
now.
does make a handful of plays that are still
There's
wildly
still some
impressive.
throws that
The
are
throw to
elite.
Lazard, he had a
Yeah,
scramble. You're right. You're right.
but to your point, he what he's doing is unacceptable. And if that's the case, if he's whatever he's battling right now, you're not winning games if the quarterback is having his own battle with himself. Like you're not going to win games. So it
There's
just
more
seems
to it
yeah
that we don't
more
know.
to it. What about Tampa? Speaking of dead, like I thought they were done. How did the Rams blow that game?
I mean, Tampa. We touched on it before. Like this is why you don't declare a team dead because Tom Brady is
Yeah,
Tom Brady. He's the greatest ever. He still has a
greatest
drive
ever.
like
How
that in
many
him.
points? Greatest ever. They had how many
Yeah,
points
yeah.
yesterday?
But look at the drive. Did you? I mean, the end of the game.
Yeah, I don't. I trust me. I saw it. I
Hey,
just
they've got a great defense. I mean, outside of the one play to Cooper Cup, the 69 yarder.
their pass defense is nasty.
Oh my God. I mean, you do the
How
math and look at the Rams did absolutely nothing in the passing game
The
outside of
Rams are the
that one play.
fakest. That was the fakest Super Bowl. That was what you do when you go all in. You go all in, you steal one, and they stole one. They should. We've talked about it. They shouldn't even been in the Super Bowl, but they stole one, and now they're
Yeah.
completely. They're really nothing. Like they don't even scare you on offense.
No.
And who scares you on their offense? Cup is a great player, but he doesn't scare you.
I mean, they paid a lot of money for Allen Robinson and they hardly use him.
He's shot.
Um,
He's not going to
yeah.
scare you. Stafford doesn't
Daryl
scare you.
Henderson at running back has got to be one of the worst starting running backs in football.
Akers never
Cam
panned out.
Akers doesn't even want to be
Never
there.
panned out. Never panned out. Yeah, I just think they're. I think they went for it and got it.
Yeah.
Now you're seeing the result.
I kind of like Tampa though because of their defense still. I mean, the
Well,
fact that
anytime you can
they
play
held
defense,
the Rams had
I would agree with
9
you.
first downs, were 4 of 15 on third. Even with that 69-yarder, they only had 206 total yards. I mean, the Bucs defense, that looked like the Super Bowl Bucs defense. And then Brady still has that drive in him. Brady
He
still
did.
can put a few completions together with,
No,
right,
he's
no
obviously.
timeouts. They needed a touchdown. They had to go how many yards here? It
I
was
know. I still don't understand how it happened.
60 yards in 35 seconds. Yeah.
He did it. Can't take that away from him. But they just don't seem. But we're talking about the NFC, and we're talking about the best teams in the NFC are Philly and San Fran. You're talking about Hurts and Garoppolo,
Yeah.
both unproven as far as not unproven. Garoppolo, we know what he is. Hurts is still. Can he do that in the playoffs? Can he do this? So basically, to your point, sure, Tampa's in it because we know they can play defense. You know what's interesting about Tampa's offense is the amount of drop passes they have this year. Mike Evans, it's every game for Mike Evans, which I don't, I know he doesn't have like, if you give a 10 out, we were talking about this before with some of the guys, like, who would you give a 10 out of 10 hands, like soft hands? Like I said, DeAndre Hopkins is a 10 out of 10, right? Beckham, Jarvis Landry, those guys are 10 out of 10. Like, those are some of the best hands I've ever seen scouting.
Yeah.
Sammy Watkins would be a 10. Mike Evans would not be a 10. Like when I scouted, he has hard, like Randy Moss actually has hard hands.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not like if you watch he and Chris Carter, they did a thing before on ESPN. The two of them were catching balls. Chris Carter is a 10 out of 10 hands, right? You don't hear it. Randy Moss, it's like you can tell, you can hear it a little bit. It's
T.O. had a ton of drops.
Ton of drops. And so does Mike Evans. Basically, that's what I'm saying. He's a great player that does not have great hands. Matchup nightmare, big, strong, but his drops show up.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, I guess I was
it's going to
thinking
get
about
tough for Tampa. I mean, they go to Germany to play Geno Smith in Seattle.
Hey,
And then
I watch them. I've watched them closely now. Seattle. Wow. I know I talked about it on the midseason thing, but that was a really good win to go to Arizona. And I'm good on Arizona, but to go there, Arizona's giving you everything. That's a win they need to get at home division. Gino had that one. If it wasn't for one, it was a swing pass, good play by the DN. He didn't think the guy was going to peel off, pick six. Other than that, that running game they have so strong. They're playing on defense. I'm always so hard on Pete Carroll, but I got to give John Schneider and Carroll credit. They had a plan. They were ready to move on and had a plan.
So he throws the pick six. Such trailing 14-10. You think, all right, this is when Geno Smith's going to go one of two directions, right? You've seen quarterbacks just kind of spiral into mistake after mistake, and they can't forget that play. I mean, this is probably the value in Geno Smith. He's been through so much shit the last decade, backing people up, and then everything that happened with the Jets before that with Rex, and he's been through a lot where it's not going to phase him. I mean, he comes right back, 13 plays, 75-yard drive, 635 touchdown. Arizona punts.
They kind of dominated.
13 plays, 81 yards, 6 minutes, 46 touchdown. Arizona scores. They make it 24-21. And then Geno again, a third touchdown drive in a row, 85 yards on 5. I mean, the next three drives were touchdown drives, and he was making big throws on each drive.
It's it is. But the NFC playoffs are going to be so fun to watch. Different than the AFC. Completely different.
Yeah. Do you
Where
remember
it's not.
scouting Gino? So you would have been in New
I didn't.
Orleans
I
right
do.
before you came to Buffalo,
So I
2013.
didn't personally scout him because he was at West Virginia and I was still doing the Southeast for the Saints. That was EJ Manuel draft. So that's why I
Right.
remember it, just because I did, and so I know our scouts with Gino, there was a lot, there was back and forth on the same stuff, how advanced, how much is he going to be able to handle in the playbook coming from where he came from, the offense he played in. There was a little concern on how much he could handle just with everything in the NFL playbook. But I don't think there wasn't any concerns that he can't do. It was just, hey, he hasn't really had this exposure to an NFL playbook. The Jets thing is what we talked about. Sometimes you go to a team and it's just the wrong situation. And for a guy like Gino, going to a shit show
Yeah.
isn't the way to groom a young quarterback. So good for him for sticking with it. Obviously, he's got a toughness and a skill set. The guy, he's playing like he's a good starting quarterback right now. He's not elite by any means. Nobody thought he would be, but he is good. And he's right in that Garoppolo, that whole
It's better
range
than
of guys.
Garoppolo.
That's fair. I mean, I don't Garoppolo, I have a hard time crushing Garoppolo because he did get to a Super Bowl and was a
I
play
know.
away from last year from being in his second Super Bowl. Could be in his third this year. I need to see Gino at least win some playoff games before I say he's better than Garoppolo. But to your point, I'm not going to argue that.
It it's just wild to watch some of the throws
I
he's
agree.
making.
That's the best
Deep
way to
down the
say it.
field, tight windows, no hesitation, runs when he has to run. And Kenneth Walker, God, what a beast.
So I
I
didn't
mean,
know a lot
he's
about
doing his
him in
damage in the
college.
fourth quarter, too.
His jump cuts, he has a jump cut in him that works. You got to be careful with it, but his whole combination of running, he's got the vision. I like everything about him that I've seen. They
Yeah.
drafted young. They have offensive linemen. They have some rookie offensive linemen starting. I mean, they're doing some good things with young guys.
I mean, if people listening don't subscribe, I mean, please, if there's a reason to subscribe, it's Bob McGinn's Draft Connections. I mean, he's talking to coaches and
I
scouts around the
still,
NFL.
yes, every player.
Yeah. I mean, I just remember the Kenneth Walker stuff was really interesting. It's always all over the board, but you can see some of the signs where, let's see, I mean, one scout said hard runner, physical, speed, acceleration, vision, elusiveness. He can play on all downs, contributes immediately, needs to
That's what
improve
I've
in
seen.
pass pro, but wasn't asked to do that much. Day one starter. Ran a faster 40 than people thought. The 4.44 shocked me, a third scout said. As a runner, he's a poor man's Ray Rice. People question Ray Rice's speed too, and all he did was produce. Um, I mean,
Yeah, running back speed. I don't know where that. I don't know. You shouldn't put too much.
yeah,
Like I said, unless it's a fatal flaw where you're just heavy legged, I consider heavy legged being worse than pure speed.
it's interesting always to read the running backs because you can see it and hear it in the scouts' voices where scouts will love these guys like Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker, Isaiah Spiller, Brian Robinson, and yet there's it's kind of like marinated in a little bit of doubt. Like, yeah, but these running like how much should we really value these running backs? Like, is he really that special? Should we really pull the trigger? And I think you do pull it if you're going to use him like they're using Kenneth Walker. I mean, if you're gonna hand the ball off 20 to 30 times and win with the run, win with your defense, win with an accurate quarterback, he's the rookie of the year.
Opposite, opposite of Kyle Pitts, the tight end of Atlanta. They
Oh,
don't use
oh,
him. They don't even throw to him.
unbelievable. Yeah.
They don't throw to him. The Chargers haven't stopped. They can't stop anybody on defense, and Atlanta couldn't get him the ball. I'm like, I have a tough time understanding what the plan was because they were aligned. That was Terry Fontenot, Arthur Smith, new head coach, new GM.
Did you watch that game? The end of the game. I know
Yeah,
we both kind of red zone it. Did you see the throw the Mariota missed? Brutal, brutal.
brutal. Like, what kind of throw was that? Like, it was.
I mean,
I know.
that's
Now, would you rather have Mariota or Justin Fields right now if you're Atlanta? If you're catering to and you're trying to, who would you rather have?
yeah. As much as I love Kyle Pitts, and I agree with all of these
No,
tight
it's not
ends who
about.
say he's the future. It's not about him. It's
It's
not
not
about
about
you.
Pitts. Yeah,
You have an opportunity. They must not have liked Justin Fields in their
no, they
evaluations.
didn't. We know that. We know they didn't. Um,
And it's
and he's from right outside of Atlanta. I can't stress that enough. And now I was hard on Fields this year because that drop back stuff isn't for him. Like, he needs catered to right now. He needs to just let him use his skill set until he can get more comfortable with everything.
yeah.
New offense, everything. But man, when you see what I'm sorry, but there aren't many people that can do what he's doing. You saw what Mike McDaniel said to him on the sideline that one run. I don't know if you saw it on Twitter. I saw
No.
it on Twitter, but Fields made another great run by Miami sideline, and he walked by McDaniels, and McDaniels looked at him and was like, "Hey, stop it." He was just telling Fields to stop it. Fields was smiling. He was like, but that's the
Yeah.
case. That's the thing. That's respect,
Fields
though.
Fields
That's
was fun as
respect.
hell to watch. He was driving me nuts though. I mean, all week and everybody loves hearing about other people's fantasy teams, right? So here we go. All week I was trying to
Weather and
trade Kyler
fantasy team.
Murray so I could start Fields, and I didn't have the balls to just start Fields. You know, nobody bit, and yeah. So now we're needing Alvin Kamara to really step it up tonight in the TFL.
That's a pretty good connection. Yeah, I would think Fields, if he can, fantasy wise, if they're going to let him loose like
Yeah,
this, he's pretty valuable.
there's a blueprint, right? I mean, they're trying to do with Fields what Philly did with Jalen Hurts.
No doubt. As we said, Hurts, Cam, that's your goal. That's your ceiling for Fields right now. He needs to shoot and as a coaching staff, that's who you should be studying. Those guys. That's what he is. He's not a pure passer because he still had some plays yesterday where he was thrown down the sideline. The balls were out. They weren't letting the receiver make a play, and I was like, "There it is, stuff you and I were talking about." But there's too much good when you can do what he did yesterday. That wins you over with the team.
Oh my God, Jim, we have breaking news. Did you see this?
No,
Okay. If I hope
wait,
people
tell
are
me the
watching this
team.
podcast because I want your
Wait, tell me the
natural
team.
I want your
All right, tell me.
natural reaction. Ready?
This is good. Tell me
Breaking
the
from
team.
Adam Schefter. It's the Indianapolis Colts from Adam Schefter. So as we said earlier, Frank Reich was
Frank's
fired.
done.
Okay. I honestly I saw the picture for this person and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. He's getting into the Ring of Honor or they're retiring a number. They're doing some type of halftime ceremony. Oh no. No. None of that.
Peyton
Breaking.
Manning. Peyton
No.
Manning. Yeah.
The Colts are naming their former six-time Pro Bowl center and ESPN analyst Jeff Saturday as their interim head coach. Saturday has been a consultant for the team in its Ring of Honor and also was head coach for the Hebron Christian Academy football team in Dacula, Georgia. What in the hell?
Man, those guys have some
Wow.
good drinking stories on those. Ursay's private jet must have some great alcohol. I'm in shock.
Oh,
He's the interim head coach.
yeah.
So he's going to walk into that building. How are the assistant coaches going to handle that? The players are going to be like, whatever, this is a shit show. Get me out of here. How are the
Here's
assistant
Schefter
coaches
followed
going to?
up. He goes, here's one of the biggest issues that new Colts interim head coach Jeff Saturday will encounter once he arrives later today. No one on his staff has called NFL plays before. It will be one of Saturday's first orders of business, figuring out who will call plays against the Raiders.
So this obviously was in the works for weeks and weeks and weeks, months.
Yeah.
So Ursay, I would think before the season, I don't know. I didn't know he and Saturday were tight, but obviously before the season, Ursay said, "Hey, if he doesn't get it, would you be interested?" And Saturday's probably like, sure. If he can't get it done, you don't just do that on a, hey, you want to finish out the year. So this was in the works. How do you plan that? Whatever. So now Jeff Saturday is going to take over.
Yeah. I covered Jeff Saturday for 1 year. He
He's
played for the
out.
Packers for a year.
I'm not trying to
And
say anything about him. He's football brilliant, like he is.
you know what was weird though? Yeah, I always like talking to him. You always learn something, but he was I still remember he was upset with the coverage of the team. He thought it was too harsh. He said, you guys should kind of get behind the team a little. He didn't understand that, in the media you're an impartial observer, and he also was struggling big time. I mean, he was at the end of the line, and I think Evan Dietrich Smith eventually overtook him as the center, and it was ugly. But yeah, he's in the media now. So now he was. I guess now
You
he's the head coach.
you got me on that one. I was not thinking he never entered my mind. Like on ESPN, when you watch like Orlovsky and Louis Riddick, you could see that those guys want to be GM or coaches. They kind of talk about it. Um,
Hmm.
I never heard Saturday really talk like that. So
No. Personally, I'd go with Dallas Clark, right? If you're going to go former player, you should probably go with Dallas Clark, my humble opinion. But hey, teach
so
their own.
Saturday is interim. So my guess is he should just bring in Peyton Manning as let him call the game. Screw it.
Yeah.
Have some
Bring
fun.
the band back together.
Who could you get on defense? Somebody call the D. Yeah, have some fun with it. You're only going to be there for a couple weeks.
Tony Dungy.
Yeah, Dungy come back, call the D,
Yeah.
and then hire Caldwell. Go and hire Jim Caldwell. Do something. I don't know. I just
Yeah.
can't believe that's what they're doing.
So the Colts are dead then. To bring it back to alive or dead. They're dead.
I go dead just based on their whole quarterback situation. They were dead,
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's too bad. They've got some good players on defense.
that's a good football team. It's not a bad team. You
Yeah.
see what
Just
happens, man. They are the Bills. They are the 8-8 Whaley, Rex, Marone Bills. Like good team. Is the quarterback good enough?
and it's hanging on to somebody that is proven, but at the end of the line and is a retread for a reason. Like you just have to start anew and have the guts to risk being bad for a year. Right? That's what it is. You have to be okay with the possibility that like the
Well,
Chicago Bears with Justin Fields. It might be ugly. Like they didn't even really sign many players. They got a lot of cap.
great
They're
example.
looking
They
ahead with the
actually
cap
kind of
space.
they actually depleted a little bit
Yeah,
around Fields. And I love how you said that because we talked about it. You have to be willing. It's almost like the Raiders right now and the Colts. They've almost been they didn't start the season thinking they would be here right now, and they are. They've actually now been given, to me, the last thing the Colts and Raiders want to do right now is win.
right.
You don't want to go 8-8. Don't fight to be 7-9 or 8-8. Fight. Go ahead and get those. Let this season ride. Go ahead and lose it because it's the only way you're going to get that quarterback.
Yeah. Any other games pop to you, Jim, that you want to hit on?
No, those were pretty good. I think we hit the main ones.
Minnesota Washington was kind of strange.
I,
With
I actually
refs
thought
taking out
Washington was gonna.
players.
I thought Washington was gonna get that game. That's a good win for Minnesota.
Yeah.
That's not an easy win to go there. That's a get a win and get out. That's how like we always talk. That's a one for Minnesota. Just did that. Get it and get out because you might get smacked this week coming to Buffalo.
But have you seen Kirk Cousins on these road games? Now he's taking the shirt off with the ice around his
I
neck.
have a long history. Kirk and I have a long history.
You do. Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
if I
Yeah, he
bet
was
on, I
almost your
told you, if I bet
quarterback.
on him, if I bet on Kirk, he stinks. If I bet against him, he's the best ever. And of course, I had Washington yesterday. Luckily, the line was 3, so I pushed. But I'm not a Kirk Cousins. We talked about it. I don't. But this will be it. This is the game. Minnesota Buffalo though. I like that.
Big game. Big game. We'll
Anyway,
definitely
yeah,
get into
yeah,
it
that was good.
later in the
Yeah.
week.
No panic. No panic for Buffalo. Panic for Green Bay.
Hey, we're gonna have our buddy Eric Wood back on the show. He's got a new book out and he wants to talk about it. So we'll bring Eric back on.
I guess I got to do a book to be on that conversation. You and Eric,
Just
I can't be. I'm not allowed to. I got.
Jim, it's for serious. Yeah, this is for serious podcasters. So, you and your 2 decades of NFL experience can just get the hell out of here.
My 2 decades can't help anybody understand that Jeff Saturday is right now a coach.
Yeah, I kind of derailed the show by dropping that bomb on you.
You got me.
My
I can't.
brain's
I
just
want to call
turned into
I just
mush.
want to call every assistant coach I know right now in the NFL and ask them how they feel about this.
Dumb question, but does the Rooney Rule apply like to interim hirings? Like,
If you
I don't
can
know.
figure out that Rooney Rule, let me know. I'm pretty sure you can do whatever you want.
That's basically what happens is teams just and then
Like the salary cap.
it pisses everybody off, right?
It's like the salary cap.
The
Just
black assistant coaches who deserve promotions and opportunities, I mean, they don't want to be treated as a token. Like
it's an ugly,
when
ugly topic.
when the league put out, God, I can't remember the exact word of the law, but the whole like, if you, what was it with personnel staff? Like if you hire,
You get a draft pick.
you get a draft pick.
Yeah. They just
So
exercised. A team just used it. Was it Philly? No. Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago, they received, it was for that, I know what it was. The Kansas City Chiefs, I think, received a pick for the Bears' current GM,
Ryan
Poles.
Poles.
And Kansas City used that as ammo to get Tony from the Giants.
It's just, I mean, when that went down, I had multiple black personnel members text me like how pissed off they were about it, like how ridiculous it was, and they considered this a slap in the face, like now because it puts everybody in a bad position. Now, when you get a job, in the back of your mind, are you thinking, did I really deserve it? Did I get it because of this reason or that? I don't know what the answer is, honestly. I don't know how you fix the situation because obviously the representation isn't what it should be, but it's not that. That's a conversation for another podcast. But
yeah, it is.
We should have
it's a good one.
We should.
It's a good one. It's a pretty simple solution. It's all the owners.
Yeah,
it's very, very, very simple. We'd have to ask them what it is that they have, why there's such a favorable hiring practice for non-minorities. Like, why aren't minorities getting opportunities? The owners are the ones that have to answer that. Mm-hmm. They have the final say.
I mean, there's so many names that just pop in my head. Like Jerry Reese, I know it wasn't always pretty with the New York Giants. He won 2 Super Bowls. They beat Tom Brady twice.
We don't hear from him.
And then he just disappeared. Like after he was fired. Nothing.
Disappeared.
Like not even as a scout or personnel exec or senior advisor, nothing.
Steve Keim gets promotions every year in Arizona.
Mistake after mistake. Yeah,
Steve Wilkes, Josh Rosen. Oh yeah, I don't like that combo. How about Kingsbury Murray? I mean, like, how is that? How do you keep your job? I know how.
There's
owner. Owner has to.
Well, on that chipper note.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that was a great. Hey, you rocked the world with that Jeff Saturday. That changed the whole.
Yeah.
All right. That'll be good for later in the week.
Definitely. We'll have some guests. Also, I joined his podcast on my book tour for Blood and Guts. Do you remember Chris Howard, Michigan running back?
Yes.
Kicked around the NFL for a little bit. He's going to come on the show. We'll have him on.
What's he do now?
Maybe he's on the dark side with all of us in the media. So yeah.
Yeah, he was tough.
So we're gonna figure something out there. It should be a fun time.
Good. We'll get Eric Wood. I got to think of some good stuff. I'll try to get him talking. He tries to be too professional now with us.
Once in a while, though, no, he keeps it real with us compared to. I get it, when you work for the team and you're on the team radio station. But no, he's told us some good stories. I mean, that Russell Wilson story was pretty wild.
That was a good one.
Maybe we get a Richie story out of him or two, right? There's got to be something there.
Those guys are tight. They're not going to sell each other out.
Hey, that's why, in this profession, you get people to open up, Jim. Like you just gotta,
We,
you get
you
people
do.
talking, you get some beer flowing, and who knows what happens.
Yeah, you might have somebody criticize Howie Roseman, and guys get ready to go to the Super Bowl. All right, enough.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We appreciate it.